Good morning, it's Sunday, it's Reverend Chris Taylor here, and today I'm going to be thinking about things which are new and things that we want to hold on to, and the idea of not going back. But first, a reading from the first chapter of Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. You'll see where I'm going with it, I'm sure. Chapter 1, The Riverbank. The mole had been working very hard all the morning, spring cleaning his little home. First with brooms, then with dusters, then on ladders and steps and chairs, with a brush and a pail of whitewash, till he had dust in his throat and eyes, and splashes of whitewash all over his black fur, and an aching back, and weary arms. Spring was moving in the air above and in the earth below and around him, penetrating even his dark and lowly little house with its spirit of divine discontent and longing. It was small wonder then that he suddenly flung down his brush on the floor, said "bother" and "oh blow," and also "hang spring cleaning," and bolted out of the house without even waiting to put on his coat. Something up above was calling him imperiously, and he made for the steep little tunnel which answered, in his case, to the gravelled carriage drive owned by animals whose residences are nearer to the sun and air. So he scraped and scratched, and scrabbled and scrooged, and then he scrooged again, and scrabbled and scratched and scraped, working busily with his little paws and muttering to himself, up we go, till at last, pop, his snout came out into the sunlight, and he found himself rolling in the warm grass of a great meadow. "This is fine," he said to himself. "This is better than whitewashing." The sunshine struck hot on his fur. Soft breezes caressed his heated brow, and after the seclusion of the cellarage he had lived in so long, the carol of happy birds fell on his dulled hearing almost like a shout. Jumping off all his four legs at once, in the joy of living and the delight of spring without its cleaning, he pursued his way across the meadow till he reached the hedge on the further side. What an amazing story about the pattern of creation, the call of spring to the mole, the call of new growth and new things. We are stewards of creation. We're told in the first creation account in Genesis that we have dominion over the wonderful creation which God has made. We're told in the second creation account how man was put in the Garden of Eden, how humans were put in the Garden of Eden to tend and till that garden on behalf of God and with God. We are joint stewards of a wonderful creation, and as you all know, in the recent past we have failed as humanity to protect that wondrous thing, that wondrous planet, that wondrous world in which we live. But now in lockdown we are seeing new things. The sea around us is blue rather than mucky grey or brown. The sky is clearer. Even the trees somehow this year seem greener than previously. In some parts of China and in India, people are seeing the sun for the first time, where there has been a miasma of pollution in the air. That is now cleared, and the views are so much better and so much further afield. These are good things. Working from home has somehow made us less polluting. We don't drive so far, we don't use public transport so much, there's less diesel fumes, petrol fumes. And we, on the most part, are less stressed, less pressured than we were with a 9 to 5 or whatever our pattern of work was. I think some people are finding it very difficult to separate work life from home life because our home has now become our work. But proper timetabling and taking account of the needs of those that we are called to love and care for can lead us into better patterns of working from home very quickly. I've been struck working from home how many virtual and real communities I have become part of. I live on a road and I am surrounded by people, most of whom I don't know from Adam. But I'm in a WhatsApp group with them. And I see that if I wanted to, I could have a garden full of runner beans and courgettes and tomato plants. If I want something from the chemist or the supermarket and someone's going and they've got a bit of room, they will get that stuff. I mean, I haven't used that, but there are people who have. And similarly, we offer, if we're off out and we're going somewhere where we know there might be some self-raising flour, for instance, we'll say, we're off to get some self-raising flour, fingers crossed. And others will say, oh, please do, please do. There's a generosity abounding at the moment among neighbours and communities that has been rarely seen. And there is much to celebrate in that. There is a deep irony for me in this connectedness, in these WhatsApp groups and Zoom collegial groups and Facebook groups. All those friendships have got stronger. But the thing that I miss more than anything is the closeness of human contact. My children, in the picture behind me, who I haven't hugged for 2 months now. My parents, who I haven't hugged for 2 months now. My brother and sister, and all the other people that I care about, who I have spoken to and Zoomed with, but haven't touched, haven't felt. And so whilst we're closer in many ways, I think one of the new lessons we need to learn is that human contact is always, always really important. We're learning much about truth. New learning about truth. When we hear spin and lies from those who lead us. You know what I'm saying? We've all seen it. We've all heard it. We can think particularly of promises about PPE. We can think of the assertion that everyone was being cared for when our elderly were basically being left in care homes with dedicated staff desperately trying to provide the appropriate support and care in the face of the threat of this pandemic. We've seen across the pond an embarrassing president who continues to embarrass his nation and himself. We learn something about the value of honesty. We learn something about how frail is the human condition it can only be fueled by adulation. This is not a necessary thing for human beings. The necessary thing is community and mutuality. We learn here, in the face of all this, that money is not everything. Profit is not everything. There's a whole other talk here about universal income and how that actually is being proven to be something that could work. A threshold below which, a meaningful threshold, below which no one should be allowed to sink. Worth thinking about, but not today, in this particular talk. Money is as nothing. Profit is even less when compared with survival. And the wonderful thing is that during this lockdown, many people, not everyone, but many people have learnt that there is something beautiful in learning new things and be doing more than simply surviving. What matters is shared human experience, being neighbours, being good neighbours, maybe even loving our neighbour wherever we may find them. And this is something new to many people, to many of us, but it is one of the oldest truths, a commandment from 2,000 years ago. Love your neighbour. This is something new from the pandemic that is worth striving to hold on to. No going back is the slogan. Let's do that together by pushing on to achieve something new, pushing on to achieve an awareness of our shared humanity, a humble sense of wonder that what God has saved us for is so much greater than what God has saved us from. There is, or there should be, no going back. I'm going to close with a reading from Isaiah. If I remember rightly, it's Isaiah 43. Verses 18 and 19. Bear in mind what I've just been saying. Do not remember the former things, or consider the things of old. I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert.